The steel gates groaned as they opened, revealing a town untouched by chaos. Cameron stood at the front of the convoy, his rifle slung low and sweat trickling down his temple. Behind him, the other survivors waited in anxious silence. The place was called Ridgeway, a rumored safe zone, protected by mountains on 3 sides and once a military communications hub. They'd followed whispers and old radio signals to get here, believing it was the sanctuary they'd been searching for. But it was too quiet. "Where's the welcoming party?" muttered Aaron, a medic with bandaged hands and wary eyes. No one answered. The convoy of 3 battered vehicles rolled past the gate, tires crunching over gravel. Houses lined the street, shutters drawn tight, not a soul in sight. The town looked clean, intact fences, no bodies, no broken windows, but there were no signs of life either. Not even birds. Cameron scanned the rooftops through his binoculars. Nothing. No movement. "Is that good or bad?" whispered Malik, the youngest in the group. He gripped his baseball bat like it was the only thing anchoring him to the world. "We check it out," Cameron said finally. "Keep quiet. Stay tight." They moved in squads, spreading out to investigate. The silence grew heavier with every step. In a small house on the corner of Main and 4th, Aaron pried open a door. It wasn't locked. Dust coated everything inside. Plates were set on the dining table, mid-meal, mold now crusted over the food. She opened a fridge, half expecting to find something rotten, but the power was still on. The lights flickered faintly overhead. "Generators?" she asked over the walkie. "Possibly solar," replied Cameron. "Military grade, maybe." This place was built to outlast. Aaron stepped into the hallway. A child's drawing was taped to the wall, a crude picture of a family holding hands in front of the Ridgeway gate. The sun smiled down on them. But someone had scratched the faces off. She shivered and backed out. Across town, Malik and Cameron found the town square. A large digital sign flashed the same message in slow, flickering letters: "All is well. Remain indoors. Trust the system." The message repeated in a cold mechanical voice from unseen speakers every 30 seconds. "That's not creepy at all," Malik muttered. They passed a clinic. Locked. Then a police station. Abandoned, but the weapons locker had been emptied. Someone was preparing for a fight, Cameron said grimly. He picked up a broken helmet. "But where are the people?" Malik pointed. "Maybe in there." A church stood at the end of the street. Its doors were chained shut from the outside. Cameron approached slowly, eyes narrowing at the dark stains near the base of the door. Blood. Old. But not that old. He looked up, a camera pointed down at them from a nearby light pole. The red light blinked. "We're being watched," Cameron said, stepping back. Just then, the gate behind them groaned again. They turned as it slammed shut. Back at the vehicles, the group reassembled. Tension was rising. "There's food in the stores," Aaron reported. "Everything's neat. No looting. It's like they all just vanished." Malik added, "Or hid." A mechanical buzz crackled through the air. The speakers activated again. But this time, a new voice replaced the monotone. "Welcome to Ridgeway. For your safety, please remain indoors. Curfew begins at sundown." "Thank you." Cameron looked at his watch. 5:46 p.m. The sun was already starting to dip. "Everyone, back to the central house," he ordered. "We set up base there for now. No one splits up. No more exploring." They rushed toward a 2-story building near the square. It had a reinforced basement and steel shutters. Inside, they secured the doors and bolted the windows. As the last light faded, a loud click echoed through the streets, like massive locks snapping into place. The curfew had begun. And then, a scream. Far off, shrill, not human. Cameron froze, hand gripping his rifle. From outside, soft scraping sounds moved across the walls. Something brushed against the window. Malik leaned closer, heart pounding. "What was that?" he whispered. Aaron didn't answer. The silence had returned. But now, it meant something else. Something watching. Something waiting. And Ridgeway was no longer a sanctuary. The night had taken the town. Inside the central house, the group huddled in the dim glow of battery lanterns. The shutters sealed out the moonlight, and every creak of wood or whisper of wind outside made someone flinch. Cameron stood by the front window, staring through a narrow slit between the steel panels. His rifle rested in his hands, steady, but his thoughts weren't. The scream still echoed in his mind. It hadn't come from any animal or ordinary infected. There was intelligence in it. Behind him, Aaron knelt beside a table, spreading out a town map she'd found in a filing cabinet. This place isn't just a settlement. It was part of something bigger. Look, communications grid, reinforced shelters, access tunnels, it's more like a controlled experiment. Military? Malik asked, his voice low. Or private contractors, Aaron said. There's no insignia, no logos. That's not normal. Jules, a former truck driver with calloused hands and quiet strength, added, whoever built this town wanted people to feel safe. But it's a lie. You don't build thick steel shutters on every window unless you're expecting something bad. Cameron agreed silently. He looked down at the map again. There was a marked building in the north quadrant labeled Ops Center. The line connecting it to the other structures suggested it controlled power, communications, maybe even security. We check that place tomorrow, Cameron said. First light. Right now, no one leaves this house. Just then, the radio crackled. Everyone froze. It wasn't their frequency. A woman's voice broke through the static. There? If anyone can hear this, please respond. We're trapped, we need help, they come at night. Then silence. Cameron grabbed the radio and responded. This is Ridgeway Group. We hear you. Identify your location. Nothing. He repeated the message. Still no response. They're either gone, Jules said, or someone didn't want us to hear the rest. The house groaned under pressure. Aaron heard it first, a soft tapping. Like fingers brushing the outside wall. Then the sound moved. Along the side of the house. Across the back. It wasn't one set of footsteps. It was many. She turned off the lantern. Everyone went still. Outside, the tapping stopped. Then, clang. Something heavy slammed against the rear door. The group jumped. Cameron raised his rifle and aimed toward the sound. Hold fire, Aaron whispered. We don't know what it is. The doorknob rattled once. Then silence. A minute passed. 2. Malik swallowed hard. Is it gone? Cameron took a cautious step forward and looked through the peephole. Nothing. Maybe just testing the perimeter, Jules said. Like it's smart. That word, smart, hung in the air like a threat. By morning, the town looked the same, perfect, peaceful, clean. Too clean. The gates remained closed. No one came. No bodies, no blood on the streets, not even signs of struggle. But the silence wasn't comforting anymore. It was a warning. They moved as a group toward the ops center. It was a square concrete building at the edge of town. No windows. Only a single metal door with a handprint scanner and a keypad. Out of power? Malik asked. Cameron shook his head. Still humming. Feel that? They could. A faint vibration under their boots. Inside the lobby, dust clung to every surface, but the lights were on. Old coffee cups sat beside computers. Papers strewn across the floor had strange labels like Trial Phase 3, Subject Evolution, and Cognitive Retention in Hosts. What the hell were they doing here? Aaron whispered. Jules picked up a dusty report and read aloud, increased neural activity recorded post-mortem. Host intelligence improving. Containment methods must adapt accordingly. He dropped the paper like it burned him. That's not normal infection, Malik said. That's designed. Cameron found a locked console in the back. The monitor flickered to life. Lines of code streamed across it, and a message blinked. Containment breach, Phase 3 escalated. He tapped the keys, trying to access logs. Video files popped up. He clicked one. On screen, a man in a lab coat whispered frantically into the camera. If you're seeing this, you're already inside. We tried to stop it. We thought the experiments would help us understand the virus, control it. But it's not a virus anymore. It's evolving. It watches. It learns. And it doesn't want to be found. Static. Then a scream. The screen went black. They left the ops center in silence. Back at the central house, Malik sat by the window, staring into the street. They're not zombies anymore, are they? Aaron didn't answer. Jules nodded slowly. They were. Once. Cameron placed his hand on the wall. Whatever they are now, they're still here. Hiding. Watching. Outside, the sun dipped lower. The same automated voice echoed through the air. Curfew begins in 30 minutes. Please remain indoors. This time, it didn't sound like a suggestion. It sounded like a trap. The town speakers crackled again, the robotic voice cold and deliberate. Curfew in effect. All residents must remain indoors. Failure to comply will result in enforcement measures. Enforcement? Malik muttered. Who's enforcing it now, zombies? The group stood frozen in the hallway of the central house. Night was falling fast, shadows stretching across the tidy lawns and abandoned swings. The town looked like a model, too quiet, too clean, too controlled. Cameron pulled the front curtains tighter and clicked off the lantern. No lights tonight. No sound. If what we saw in the ops center is true, we're not just being watched, we're being studied. Jules clenched his fists. Then let's stop playing along. Let's get out while we can. There's nowhere to go, Erin said, her voice calm but firm. The gate is locked. The vehicles are rigged with kill switches. This whole town is a containment zone. Cameron nodded. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we run blind. They set up a rotation, 2 awake at a time, watching every angle of the house. Cameron and Aaron took first watch, crouched in silence near the back windows. The air was thick, not with sound, but with tension. Aaron stared into the darkened street. That scream last night, it wasn't just pain. It was rage. Directed. Cameron nodded. These things remember. That's what the report said. Cognitive retention. Which means they might recognize faces. Patterns. Weaknesses. Neither said what they were both thinking, they might already be marked. A sharp tap on the window made Aaron jump. They turned. Nothing. Then, another tap. Not frantic. Not random. Rhythmic. Deliberate. Cameron crept closer, rifle raised, peering through the crack. A figure stood at the edge of the yard, just beyond the motion lights. Not moving. Just standing. Its head tilted slowly, left to right, like it was measuring the house. I think it's one of them, Cameron whispered. Aaron squinted. Not charging. Why? They waited. The figure didn't advance. It didn't retreat either. Then, in one smooth, unnatural motion, it turned and walked away into the darkness. Testing our fear, Aaron said. Seeing how we react. Morning came, gray and dead. The group gathered around the kitchen table, eyes sunken from a sleepless night. I saw something on the power grid map yesterday, Aaron began, spreading the layout across the table. There's a backup generator bunker beneath the north parking structure. If we can reach it, we might find access to security controls. Maybe override the gate or power up comms. It's a risk, Jules said, but I'd rather risk that than die in here waiting for something smarter than us to rip the roof off. They moved quickly, armed and alert. Every block of the town now felt like a stage set, the lawns trimmed, mailboxes untouched, not even a scrap of paper out of place. They reached the parking structure without incident. That was the first warning sign. Beneath the surface, down 2 flights of stairs, the air turned cold. Condensation dripped from the concrete ceiling. A thick steel door with a keypad stood at the far end. Same code format as the ops center, Aaron said, punching in the numbers they'd memorized. Let's hope the pattern holds. Click. The door opened. The room beyond was filled with humming servers, blinking lights, and another console, this one still active. Malik whistled. Someone kept the lights on. Jules checked the generator, still running. Fuel tanks full. This setup wasn't meant to fail. Cameron booted up the console. More files. Video logs. Surveillance feeds from inside the town. He clicked through footage of previous residents. People. Families. Children. Then, another video. From 3 weeks ago. A man was strapped to a table. His eyes darted wildly. A voice behind the camera said, "Begin stimulation." Track memory recognition. The man screamed as something unseen was injected into his neck. His pupils dilated. Then, he smiled. A wrong, hollow smile. Cameron clicked off the video. What kind of monsters were they trying to make? Malik whispered. I don't think they were trying to make monsters, Aaron said. I think they were trying to make weapons. A low alarm sounded through the facility. The lights flickered. Then the console displayed a message. Activity detected, B-level corridors. Warning, infected movement patterns unusually coordinated. They're coming, Cameron said. They followed us. How? Jules asked, backing toward the stairs. They're learning, Aaron said. They watched last night. They predicted we'd come here. Another message appeared. Emergency lockdown initiated. The outer door slammed shut. They were trapped. Red emergency lights bathed the hallway. From beyond the walls came footsteps. Calm. In sync. Cameron grabbed the console again. There's a hatch. Here, escape tunnel leads to a drainage system beneath the east block. We can crawl out. It's tight but doable. They found the hatch and pried it open. One by one, they climbed into the narrow tunnel, crawling through darkness and filth. Above them, something walked the floor. Something that didn't moan. Didn't groan. Just stalked. They moved fast. At the far end, daylight broke through a sewer grate. They climbed out into the woods beyond the town's perimeter. But the silence followed them. Not the silence of emptiness. The silence of eyes watching. From behind trees. From within the ruins. From the infected who had learned patience. And were still learning more. The group crouched in the underbrush, breath ragged, covered in mud and sewer filth. Behind them, the town's fence stood tall and still, but the stillness no longer fooled them. They knew what was in there now, and what was starting to follow. Aaron scanned the tree-line. They're not rushing us. Why? Cameron kept his rifle aimed behind them. Because they want us scared. Tired. Exposed. We should keep moving, Malik said. There's an old ranger outpost about a mile east. Might have radios or maps. Jules wiped grime off his face. Then let's go before those things change their minds. They moved silently, weaving through moss-covered trunks, the forest thick with dampness and shadows. Each snapping twig beneath their boots made everyone flinch. The deeper they went, the more it felt like the forest was watching too. The outpost came into view just before dusk. A log building perched on a low hill, windows boarded, doors slightly ajar. It looked abandoned, but not wrecked. Malik pushed the door open, sweeping the room with his flashlight. Clear. Inside, the place was dusty but intact. A cot in the corner. Shelves with moldy rations. A broken shortwave radio. Aaron flipped open a logbook on the desk. Last entry, about 3 weeks ago. Mentions unusual activity near the testing site. That matches the footage from the ops center, Cameron said. Whatever experiment they were running, it escaped into the woods too. They barricaded the door and settled in, eating what they could, checking weapons, reviewing what little intel they had. Jules found a faded map and spread it across the floor. There's a water tower 2 miles northeast, he said, pointing. If we can get to high ground, maybe we can catch a signal or even see what's really going on. Cameron nodded. We move at first light. That night, the forest came alive. Not with howls or screeches. With whispers. Low. Inhuman. Yet somehow, deliberate. Malik sat bolt upright on his cot. Did you hear that? They all did. A soft, clicking sound, moving outside the walls. Aaron gripped her knife. They're not just following anymore. They're searching. Then came a knock. 3 slow knocks on the front door. Cameron raised his rifle. That's not random. Jules peered through the crack in the boards. Oh God. Outside stood a girl. Maybe 10 years old. Pale. Dirty. Alone. She looked directly at the crack in the window. And smiled. Do not open that door, Aaron said immediately. She's not what she seems. Malik's face twisted in disbelief. She's just a kid. No, Cameron whispered. She's bait. Behind her, figures emerged from the trees. Not stumbling. Not groaning. Just waiting. Watching. Their eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight. They know we're trapped, Jules said. They're forcing a decision. Aaron didn't hesitate. She pulled a flare from her pack and struck it, tossing it out the back window. The red light hissed, illuminating the treeline. The infected flinched slightly. Some even recoiled. Light. That was a weakness. Move now, Cameron ordered. While they're dazed. They kicked out the back wall and ran, flare light trailing behind them. The girl didn't follow. She just turned, watching them go, her smile never fading. By dawn, they reached the water tower. Rusted, old, but still standing. The ladder creaked as they climbed one by one. From the top, they saw it all. The town below, too perfect, its streets filled with still-standing infected. The forest behind, alive with movement. And to the north, another facility. Larger. Hidden by canopy and distance. Another lab, Aaron said. Or the real one. Jules adjusted the broken binoculars. There's movement. Trucks. Lights. That place isn't abandoned. We weren't just test subjects, Cameron muttered. We were distractions. Aaron looked at the map again, then back at the compound. We need to get in. Get evidence. Find out who's running this and why they're creating intelligent infected. Cameron turned to her. And if they're already out of control? Then we shut it all down. A distant hum filled the air, low, mechanical. What's that sound? Malik asked. They looked north. A drone hovered in the distance. Then another. Scanning. Searching. One turned toward them. Then veered away. Jules frowned. They saw us. No, Aaron said slowly, staring after the drones. They ignored us. Why? Because we're not the target anymore. Far below, something moved at the base of the tower. The infected. One by one, they emerged from the trees. But they didn't rush. They just stood there, surrounding the base. Staring up. Waiting. They followed us the whole way, Jules whispered. And now they're learning how to corner prey, Cameron added. Aaron stared down, heart pounding. Then we don't give them time to evolve again. She turned to the others. We head for that facility tonight. Get inside. End this. No one argued. The silence below had changed. It wasn't empty. It was expectant. And it was growing bolder. The sun dipped low behind the treetops as the group climbed down the water tower, one careful step at a time. The infected below didn't charge, they parted, silently, like shadows melting into the trees. They're not done with us, Erin said, hand on her pistol. They're just changing the game. Jules glanced back. Then let's change the board. They moved through the dense woods in a wide arc, avoiding trails and keeping low. By the time the secret facility came into view, the last traces of daylight had vanished, and the first stars blinked overhead. The building was massive, all steel and concrete, built partially into a hillside like a bunker. No lights. No guards. But power still hummed through the place. It looks abandoned, Malik whispered. That's what they want it to look like, Cameron said. Jules squinted at the outer wall. Back in trance. Service tunnel. See the vents? Erin nodded. We go in quiet. No shooting unless necessary. We're here to expose what's really happening, not die in their experiment. The tunnel's grate came off with some effort, and one by one, they slipped inside, crawling through metal ducts that reeked of old chemicals and mold. It led to a dim maintenance room. Inside, a lone terminal flickered with static and green code. Malik tapped a few keys. Still running. Power grid active. Surveillance offline, or at least masked. Cameron scanned the space. Someone doesn't want their eyes on this place. That means they're still inside. They stepped into the main hallway, weapons raised. The halls were wide, sterile, and cold, lined with observation windows and reinforced doors. Faded signs labeled rooms as biotesting chamber A3, subject dormitory, and neurological stimulation lab. Jules stopped at one window and froze. Guys. They gathered around and looked in. Inside was a young man strapped to a medical bed. Tubes ran into his veins. His eyes were open. He wasn't dead. He was awake. And smiling. Then he spoke, though no sound came through the glass. Erin read his lips, it's in the silence. Suddenly, the hallway light shut off with a loud snap. Red emergency strobes blinked on. A low alarm buzzed. Motion detection, Malik muttered. We triggered something. Then came the sound they feared most. Footsteps. Not dragging, not erratic. Precise. Disciplined. Move! Erin shouted. They darted down a side corridor as figures poured from side doors, humanoid, infected, but wearing medical garb and surgical masks. Their eyes were glassy, their movements robotic. But they were fast. Jules fired a shot, striking one in the shoulder. It stumbled, then recalibrated its balance, and kept coming. Keep going! Cameron yelled, covering the rear. They reached a secured lab and sealed the door behind them. Inside, the walls were covered in handwritten notes, diagrams, and brain scans. Erin picked up a clipboard and read aloud. Subject 47 displays ability to mimic emotional patterns. Exposure to silence increases responsiveness. Neural reprogramming successful after 87 hours. Cameron stared. They were trying to teach the infected. No, Malik said. They weren't just teaching. They were controlling. Jules found a file marked Phase 3. He opened it and flinched. This wasn't about cures. It was about weaponization. These things, those patients, they were being trained to infiltrate survivor camps. Observe. Wait. Blend in. Erin's voice was low. That girl in the woods, she was one of them. A screen in the corner came to life. Static resolved into an image, a scientist in a lab coat, eyes bloodshot, face pale. If you're seeing this, it's too late, he said. They broke containment. But not through brute force. They learned. They listened. They adapted. And now they're free. The screen flickered. Then it cut to surveillance footage of survivors at an unknown outpost. Smiling. Laughing. Normal. Until one stood up. Walked to the center. And exploded in a burst of chemical fire. Jules backed away from the monitor. They're not just spreading infection anymore. They're wiping out resistance. Silently, Aaron said. Without warning. Cameron moved to the wall and kicked open a supply locker. We can't just run again. We end this here. He tossed out explosives, military grade, likely hidden by a whistleblower. Blow the labs. Burn the research. But what if there are survivors? Malik asked. Aaron stared at the monitor one last time. Then we warn them. With the truth. She grabbed a hard drive from the terminal, stuffed it into her bag, and loaded a flare gun. Jules armed the charges. We've got 5 minutes to get out. As they made their way back toward the tunnel, the infected returned, dozens, moving with terrifying coordination. Not running. Not snarling. Just watching. Then the whisper came again. Soft. Echoing through the vents. We know you now. Aaron fired the flare down the corridor. Fire bloomed, lighting their path as they fled through smoke and alarms. Behind them, explosions shook the complex. Fire ripped through the walls. But the whisper didn't scream. It laughed. The fire spread through the compound like it had been waiting for someone to strike the match. From the ridge above the bunker, the team watched as smoke poured from the vents and shattered windows. No infected emerged. No screams. Just that horrible silence again. They're not dead, Aaron muttered. They just went deeper. Malik dropped to one knee, checking the flare's coordinates on a battered field tablet. That fire's visible for at least 20 miles. If any survivors are out there, they'll know someone fought back. Cameron kept his rifle trained on the treeline. Or it'll bring them, whoever built this. They already know, Jules said. He held up the stolen hard drive. We've got the truth now. We just have to get it to someone who can spread it. Malik nodded. There's a relay tower north of here. Military grade, pre-outbreak. It's off-grid, solar-fed. If it's still functional, we can patch the footage through it. Send the evidence wideband. Every survivor camp in the region could see it. Or they'll see us and think we're lunatics, Cameron added. Let them decide, Aaron said. We either sit on this and pray someone believes us, or we give the world proof. Let the silence speak for itself. The tower was 20 miles away, buried deep in the forest. They traveled by moonlight, cutting through old deer trails, avoiding roads. By dawn, the bunker smoke was just a smear on the horizon. A cold wind rose. Something in it felt wrong. We're being followed, Jules said quietly. Cameron turned back. I don't see anything. That's the problem. Midday came and went. The trees grew denser, the path narrower. Finally, the relay tower loomed in the distance, an ancient spire of steel rising above the pines. It looked untouched. Too untouched. They approached cautiously, checking every corner. No signs of recent use. No signs of a struggle. The door was still locked, the keypad dusty. Let me try, Malik said, kneeling beside it. The moment he touched the keys, static crackled through the forest, faint at first, then louder. A garbled voice, speaking in broken code. Watching, signal not clean, infected, inside. Then it cut out. I don't like this, Cameron said, scanning the woods again. We need to get in and out, fast. Malik cracked the panel open and rewired the circuit board. The door clicked open with a hiss of old pressure. Inside, the control room was still running. Dust covered everything. Yet the screens were on. Flickering. Waiting. Hook it in, Aaron said. Jules slid the hard drive into the terminal and uploaded the footage. Camera feeds, voice logs, classified research reports, it was all there. He opened a broadcast window. Malik entered the coordinates for known survivor outposts, Outpost Redwood, the Hives, Raven's Nest, even long-dead stations. Just in case. Jules hit transmit. The tower lit up with a low hum. Then, bang. A shot rang out. Glass shattered. Cameron collapsed, gasping. Sniper. Get down. Aaron shouted, dragging him behind a steel crate. Blood soaked his shirt, but he was alive. The shot hadn't come from the forest. It came from inside the tower. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Heavy. Controlled. Someone's here, Jules hissed. A voice followed, smooth, emotionless, amplified through the speaker system. You should have stayed silent. Aaron grabbed a grenade from Cameron's belt and rolled it toward the stairs. The explosion rattled the room. Smoke filled the stairwell, and in the chaos, they bolted for the top level. At the top was the primary antenna array, exposed to the open sky. Wind howled. But the broadcast light blinked. Live. We did it, Malik said, panting. No, Aaron whispered. Not yet. From the smoke below, a figure emerged. Tall. Dressed in black tactical armor. Gas mask. Not infected. Something worse. Human. The figure raised a weapon, sleek, government issue, and fired. The round missed, but only just. They sent a cleanup unit, Jules said, raising his own gun. Not infected. Just obedient. A gunfight erupted on the rooftop. Aaron and Malik returned fire while Jules kept the data streaming. The soldier advanced through the storm of bullets, unshaken. His armor absorbed most hits, and he moved like someone used to walking through war. Then Malik caught him in the leg. He staggered. Aaron sprinted forward, tackling him. They struggled, fists and knives flashing. Who are you? She demanded. The soldier stared at her through the mask. They needed silence. You brought noise. She knocked him out cold. We've got 10 more seconds, Jules yelled from the terminal. Transmission complete. Suddenly, screens across the console lit up with incoming messages. Received at Raven's Nest. Confirmed, Outpost Echo. We see it. We knew something was wrong. Thank you. They did it. They broke the silence. As the sun rose, Aaron looked out across the forest. We told the truth. Now let's see who listens. But deep in the trees, eyes watched. The silence wasn't over. It was just getting started. The signal had gone out. Every survivor network, hidden stronghold, and pirate radio station in the region had received the footage. They now knew the truth, the infected weren't evolving naturally. Someone was guiding the outbreak. Weaponizing it. But with that truth came danger. The relay tower was compromised. Cameron lay on a cot in the control room, pale from blood loss but alive. Aaron had done what she could with a field kit, but he needed real treatment. Fast. We can't stay here, Malik said, wiping grime from his face. They'll send more. Whoever that masked soldier worked for, they're not done cleaning up. We should burn the tower, Aaron said. Take out the broadcast log. If they trace the signal back, they'll know we were here. Too late for that, Jules said. He pointed to the terminal. A new transmission had appeared, encrypted but pulsing. Unknown origin. We heard you. We're coming. Hold position. That could be help, Malik said, frowning. Or it could be bait, Aaron countered. They didn't get the chance to decide. A low mechanical hum filled the forest. The trees trembled. Then came the sound of treads, slow, heavy, armored. A convoy. 2 black transport vehicles rolled into view on the access road below the tower. Behind them, a modified personnel carrier with mounted guns and reinforced plating. It bore no flag. No markings. Just a blank symbol on the side, an eye with a single horizontal slash through it. "I've seen that before," Cameron croaked from the cot. "Northern Sector. Experimental units." "What kind of experimental?" Jules asked. He looked up, weak but lucid. "Ones that don't take prisoners." Down below, the rear door of the first vehicle opened. Out stepped a woman. She wore the same black armor as the masked soldier, but no helmet. Her silver hair was braided tight against her skull, and her expression was unreadable. She held a megaphone and raised it slowly. "This is Director Halden of Division 9. You are in possession of classified material. Surrender it immediately and you will be granted mercy." Aaron stepped to the edge of the tower and shouted back, "We already sent it. The world knows now." A pause. Then, "So be it." The turrets powered up. "Move!" Malik yelled, diving behind a barrier just as bullets ripped into the tower's edge. Chunks of concrete and steel shattered. Jules dragged Cameron to cover while Aaron and Malik returned fire, buying time. The tower shook under the assault, its structure groaning like it might collapse. They were outnumbered. Outgunned. But not out of options. "We can't fight them here," Aaron said, crouched beside Malik. "They'll tear the tower down with us in it." "There's an access tunnel," Jules called out. "Maintenance shaft beneath the generator. I saw it earlier." "Get him down there," Aaron said, pointing to Cameron. "We'll hold them off until you're clear." Malik didn't argue. He lifted Cameron over his shoulder and followed Jules toward the hatch. The corridor below led into the hillside, tight, dark, but stable. Aaron stayed behind, emptying the last of her mags into the convoy. She wasn't trying to win, just stall. Then a shriek split the sky. Not from a human throat. The forest erupted. Dozens, no, hundreds, of infected spilled from the treeline behind the convoy, drawn by the gunfire and scent of blood. But these weren't the mindless husks Aaron remembered. They moved in formation. Their eyes glowed faintly. And they ignored the tower. They went straight for Division 9. Panic broke out among the soldiers. Gunfire redirected. The woman, Director Halden, held her ground for a moment too long. Then the first wave hit the convoy, tearing into metal and flesh with brutal precision. "They're not attacking us," Malik whispered, watching from the tunnel mouth. "They're attacking them." "Why?" Jules asked. Cameron coughed, barely holding on. "Because we exposed the control protocols. We broke the system. The horde isn't theirs anymore." Back on the tower, Aaron saw her moment. She dropped her final grenade down onto the convoy's ammo rack and sprinted for the hatch. Boom! The explosion lit the forest in orange and smoke. The tower trembled again, but this time, it held. Aaron slid down into the tunnel just as the flames rose. They emerged half a mile away, covered in ash and sweat. The sounds of battle faded behind them. But so did any certainty. "What happens now?" Jules asked as they moved through the thinning trees. Aaron looked up. Drones buzzed high above the clouds. The sky was no longer silent. "They'll regroup. Retaliate. And us? We keep moving. Keep telling the truth. Because someone out there heard us, and someone else didn't like it." Cameron stirred, eyes half closed. "They said it was safe here," he whispered. Aaron nodded grimly. But the silence meant something else. Part 8 will be the explosive final chapter, the endgame. Ready for me to continue with the last 795-word part? The forest burned behind them. Smoke curled into the overcast sky, blotting out the weak sunlight. The air stank of scorched metal and rotting flesh. But Aaron, Malik, Jules, and a barely conscious Cameron kept moving, away from the ruined tower, away from Division 9, and toward a flicker of hope. A map had printed from the tower's terminal just before the attack. Cameron's last act before blacking out. It showed an old emergency bunker northwest of their position, near the ridge where the forest thinned into rocky hills. A red circle marked it, signal repeater Alpha. A backup tower, Jules said, jogging beside Aaron. Think it's still operational? No idea, she replied, gripping her rifle. But if it is, we finish what we started. It took hours to reach the ridge. The terrain became steep, slippery. Twice they had to stop so Malik could readjust Cameron on his back. The wounded man hadn't spoken since the tunnel, but his pulse still beat under Aaron's fingers. Finally, as dusk fell, they saw it. A concrete hatch buried beneath wild vines and cracked stone. Beside it, a keypad glowed faintly red. Jules stepped up and punched in a guess based on old protocol codes. Beep. Access granted. The hatch hissed open. Inside was stale air, dust, and silence. But deeper in, as they moved through the tunnel's dim corridor, humming machinery came into focus, lights blinked, servers thrummed, and a central terminal awaited. Signal repeater Alpha was alive. Help me set him down, Malik said, lowering Cameron gently onto a cot in the corner. Aaron moved to the console, eyes scanning the interface. Still linked to the satellite grid, she said. Still tied to emergency broadcast channels. And the footage? Jules asked. Aaron nodded. Stored. Uncorrupted. We can rebroadcast. Wipe the counter-narrative. Division 9 is spinning. Outside, something screeched. Aaron froze. A security camera feed on the terminal flickered to life. The hill beyond the hatch showed motion. They followed us, Malik growled, grabbing his weapon. But it wasn't soldiers this time. It was the infected. They stood in a line, just beyond the reach of the trees. Silent. Watching. Not charging. Not groaning. Just waiting. Why aren't they attacking? Jules whispered. They're not here for blood, Aaron said slowly. They're here for the message. Jules frowned. You mean they understand it? No, Aaron corrected. Someone else does. Someone behind them. She tapped the console and began the upload. Cameras inside and outside the bunker captured everything. Her voice. The footage. The data logs. Cameron's testimony. The attack at the tower. The infected who had ignored them to target Division 9. This is Aaron Cross, she said, speaking directly to the lens. If you're receiving this, you need to understand, this outbreak isn't a natural disaster. It's a controlled collapse. Or it was. Someone's trying to wipe us out with the undead, then cover the evidence. But we broke the silence. And now, so can you. The signal blinked green. Broadcasting. From the camera feed, the infected began to move. Not closer. Away. Dispersing into the forest like shadows swallowed by the night. What the hell just happened? Jules whispered. The message reached them, Aaron said. Not the infected, whoever's guiding them. Someone who wanted the truth out. So, we're not alone in this? Malik asked. Not anymore. A soft moan came from behind them. Cameron stirred on the cot, eyes fluttering open. His lips cracked into a faint smile. You did it. Aaron moved to him. We all did. But they won't stop, he said hoarsely. Division 9. They'll come again. Aaron nodded. Then we'll be ready. She turned back to the console. The broadcast was live. Viewers were tuning in from all over the region. Pirate networks. Survivor enclaves. Even a few voices from the southern quarantine zones pinged in. Hope was spreading. We take this further, she said. We expose more. Names. Locations. Experiments. We show the world the face of the ones who said it was safe. Jules grinned. And what do we call this new station? Aaron looked into the camera one last time. We call it the Echo. Outside, lightning cracked across the distant horizon. The silence, once terrifying, had given way to purpose. They were no longer hiding. They were no longer victims. They were the voice in the static. The ones who dared to speak when the world had gone quiet. And their words, now free, would echo across the ruins of what was once a lie called safety. And let me know if you'd like cinematic thumbnails, intro narration, or a new 8-part story.